Emilie, how are you?
I'm good, Michael. What about you?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm really happy that we finally got together to be on the show today. It's been a while. We
Yes.
took it took us a couple of weeks to get things organized, and I know you were busy with your work and the kids at home and all that stuff because of the crazy COVID stuff. And I'm excited, and I'm really happy to have you on the show because our first conversation, it was so fantastic. We probably could have taped that just probably
Okay.
that would have been just the show right there. And I learned a lot about you and who you are and what you do. And I think you're going to be fantastic for my listeners because what you do in general and who you are as a person and what your beliefs are really, I just find it just very, very fascinating, and just your character in general too as well. And I love people like yourself who've kind of had their own journey, that had their own experiences, and part of your healing journey is about helping others through theirs. And I find that's very, very profound. And I wonder if you maybe could just start with just talking about your own personal healing journey and how it kind of started out and where it kind of evolved to.
Okay, we can do that. First, thank you for having me, Michael. It's a long journey, but I'm gonna say my spiritual awakening was when I had my son. I was 27 years old, so 16 years ago, and I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, that is an autoimmune disorder. My mom had rheumatoid arthritis, and so I knew the path. And I took the medication for a good year, almost a year, and I was living with the side effects of the medication. So I was taking a very low dosage of chemotherapy, and I was losing my hair. I had all the side effects, and I was still inflamed. I had days I couldn't take my son out of the crib. And at 27 years old, I was like, I can't live this way. And I felt that most of my emotional pain, my physical pain was connected with my emotional pain. And I needed to go to the root cause of this so-called disease that I was diagnosed with. And looking at my mom, um, her life, I knew that most of her pain was emotional pain as well. So I started I started the journey that is not an easy journey, healing and going deeper into the root cause of all. And it's going to be 16 years now that I stopped the medication. And I've been able to manage this autoimmune disorder naturally.
Wow. Yeah, that's so amazing. And that's it never ceases to amaze me how the body can heal itself so quickly, and how our emotions really, really play havoc with the body and our thoughts and the emotions. So let me just kind of go through your process of how you started out working with the emotions. Like what was some of the things you were doing to kind of figure out what my emotions were? And I guess they would call it maybe some inner child work, or the inner wounding. How would you figure that out?
Well, one of the things that now I'm understanding, and I wish at the time I would have understood, because it would have been so much easier for me. I never looked at my childhood. I knew I had a difficult childhood, but I never really even looked at the trauma. The word trauma came later on. But I knew there were a lot of wounds from my childhood, needs that were not met, but also the physical abuse and the emotional abuse of my father. But it came later on. I wish I had that word trauma at the beginning and understanding what trauma really does in our lives, and everything is connected with our childhood. So for me was even understanding the disconnection in the body. I was disconnected with self. So first really was understanding, not even I couldn't even understand the emotions because I was disconnected. So it was the root of even connecting with myself in a deeper level.
Yeah, listening to your story, I find it so very similar to my own and being disconnected. And I didn't understand that. Like, what do you mean I'm disconnected? But it wasn't until years later, like, geez, not too long ago, to be honest with you, that I kind of figured that out. I was so disconnected from my body and what was it needing. And eventually the body will kind of say, well, okay, you're not paying attention to me. And that's when you start getting diseases and start all these ailments and certain things start happening up, and you're just not paying attention to it. So yeah, it's so I just listening to you, it's like, yeah, I wish I knew that like 20 years ago. I would have
Yeah,
saved myself so much heartache, so much pain.
for
and
sure.
and I just kept recycling the same pain because I didn't know how to get out of that system. I was just like repeating the same patterns, feeling the same feelings,
Yeah,
thinking the same thoughts. And I think this is my life. And it's like, how this is messed up. Like,
mm,
how do I get out of this?
it's true. And the thing is, everything is stored in a cellular level. Our 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 body stores everything, our traumas, our stress, our sadness, everything is stored there. And really, that's why I'm always talking about the beginning of the journey was when I was diagnosed, because I had to look, my body was crying for help. The body was, I was inflamed everywhere. Where days where I couldn't even take my son out of the crib. I
Yeah.
couldn't even just, opening a bottle at 27 years old was a struggle for me at days, right? So my body was showing everything is stored there, but really it is connecting with ourselves because most of the time there is a disconnection. And for me was even understanding that I was disconnected.
Yeah. So did you ever kind of associate what particular trauma or what particular emotion was associated with the arthritis? Was there one particular, like, was it grief? Was it sadness? Was it a combination of different emotions that were kind of trapped in the body causing this inflammation? Did you ever kind of figure that out, or?
Well, one of the things that I understood was I was in the fight flight mode all the time. At 4 years old was one of the uh, it was a very painful moment in my life, and at that time, and I remember vividly like it was today. I took on the responsibility to defend my mother and defend my sister, and I was only 4 years old. And even though I was scared of my father, I had this fire in within me to fight. Surrendering to him was not an option. I needed to fight. So one of the things I knew for sure, all the years I was in this fight flight mode, defensive mode. I had to defend myself. If it was not me, I had to defend my mother and my sister. So when you are in this fight flight mode all the time, it's like you are always in under this threat, then your body is inflamed.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, let's talk about that because I think a lot of people don't really understand that whole process of the fight or flight syndrome. And that's basically, I was very much in the same way. I was in a survival mode. It was just basically, you thought your life was in danger and you're constantly in that. And, I wish I would have known that like 20 years ago, what was going on. And that would have caused it because I suffer from my own autoimmune disease. And I really don't talk about it too much, but it's called GBS, which
Okay.
is Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is similar to MS.
Okay.
So it's very best, instead of taking the central nervous system, takes peripheral things. So I've had some really serious bouts with that, and I was been hospitalized. And I think it was 2022 when I had my first really big episode where I was hospitalized, and then I had it later again in my 30s. And then I have periods where it's not always the same, but it's when
Mm-hmm.
I'm really super high stressed. I got to be very, very careful because things start happening in the body. And it's like, okay, I need to kind of chillax and figure things out. But yeah, it's so interesting when you're in that fight or flight, and sometimes you don't even realize that you're in it.
No.
Like it's like a constant state. Like you don't know why, everything seems to be a danger and you don't know why it is. You're always constantly looking around the corner. You just can't relax. And it's
Mhm.
so difficult. Now, I know you do a lot of work with meditation, stuff like that. Was that one of the first things that you learned to do to help with your own body?
Yes. So one of the first things was learning. So 15 years ago, I'm going to say I took my first course of meditation. But the way it was explained to me at the time was I needed to clear my mind. And I felt, well, I'm failing at this because my mind is not at all settling. I was always going and going. So I was like, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at meditation because my mind is not clear at all. And I wish at the time, the teacher would have explained meditation is not about clearing your mind, because you can't clear your mind we have about 50,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day, 1.2 each seconds. So it's not about clearing the mind. I did practice meditation, but it was almost if I was practicing meditation and it was helpful, but always with the idea of, I'm not doing this right. I'm not good at this. So again, for a child who at a very young age was the self-esteem was killed by my father. Again, it was another thing that I was doing not the right way. I felt, oh, I'm not doing this the right way. Just later on, so 2 years ago, I took my certification with the Chopra Center. And one of the first things that Deepak says, it is not about clearing the mind. I was like, yes, because I can't clear my mind. Okay. So it's completely normal. But it was one of the first step, meditation. And then going into the self-help book. And one of them that really touched my life was Louise. You Can Heal Your Life,
Yeah,
because she was speaking my language.
yeah. I mean, she's quintessentially like, I call her like the rock star, the OG of the self-help movement. Like, I mean, obviously with her books, but also with her
Her
publishing
own
company too.
and her own experience. Like, something is when you talk. The other thing, there is an impact with your words when you walk the walk.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a learning that it's an academic learning. It's you are going through your journey. Then you share your story. And I'm a true believer and an advocate for storytelling. There is a power when you share your story,
Yeah.
your
And
experience.
yeah, and that's why I was really happy to have you on and help you and ask that you would share your story, because I think because you have such a profound understanding of what it is to try to work with the human body and heal the emotions, and it's part of your practice,
Yeah.
and dealing with your clients. And I know through our discussion earlier, it's you really spend a lot of time with your clients. It's not kind of like you kind of one and done. You actually take your time. And I have a lot of practitioners now who are changing that. Instead of having 6 or 7 clients throughout the day, it's 1 or 2, and really deeply, profoundly working with those clients, and then just kind of work through as much as you can. A session, instead of like 40 minutes, it's like an hour and a half, like sometimes 2 hours. And I just really commend you on that. When did you really kind of shift that focus on really start to integrate all the different techniques and spend a little more time with your clients?
Well, it has been so I'm in practice for 8 years now. It's going to be 9. And I was never able to keep the time to 60 minutes since the beginning. Like, it's something that maybe it's me, I'm not able to, especially, for example, energy work. So someone comes for energy healing. this is my approach and this is the way I believe. You can't just have someone come and lay down on the bed and just tell them, have an open mind, have an open heart. You're still a stranger. They don't know you. Even if they were highly recommended, there is a connection, there is an exchange that needs to happen. There is actually an energetic shift that needs to happen for them to feel that they are safe. There is, for me, it is very important that when a client comes, there is, they feel safe, they feel that anything can come from the session. There is absolutely no judgment. It's a place of love and light, not just saying, oh, love and light. No. For people to feel that they are being held with love and light. And that, it can't be rushed. Okay, we're done, let's go. I can't do that. I'm not able to. People need to feel safe. There is a trust that needs to happen. So then they can unpack their luggage. Then there is this shift energetically that happens because they are open, because they feel safe.
Yeah.
They feel heard.
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's that it gives a chance for the body to relax, because you just got to be in that relaxed state, because the more relaxed you are in that particular state and more open you become. And then you, like you said, the stuff, your luggage and the garbage and everything else comes to the surface, allows for that healing, because it will take some time. Again, if somebody's new, you're going to be like, okay, what is she doing? What's going on? Because the mind, like you say, the mind's going to be going, it's like, what if, what's going to happen? You're always trying to get, but it allows the body to relax and kind of get out of the way, so everything else can come to the surface.
Yeah, because, and you know that energetically, right? When we work, and so many times it happens, I don't know the full story of my clients, but during sessions, sometimes trauma comes up energetically. So some pieces of their lives that come up, if they don't feel safe, there is a struggle. There is a resistance. That's why for me, it is very personalized. There is a lot of clients that will call my place, and I'm sitting in my office, the womb. And they will tell you this, the time stops when we are here. I'm fully present with them. And it's not just saying it, they feel it energetically. So then whatever comes, we are able to process it together.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's really important. It's because if that trauma does come up, like, you're going to have some type of tools necessary to help them figure that out, because I know earlier on in my practice, I didn't have the essential tools to have that. And I've had some profound, when I'm working with people, they had some profound releases, and I wasn't actually capable at the time to help them through those processes. And that's kind of led me into a lot of my own education and retraining. And because all of a sudden they're having this emotions of a trauma that's been stored, let's say a lot of times, abuse or trauma that's been suppressed for years when they were a little kid, or a little boy or a little girl comes up, and they don't know how to do with it because they've been suppressing that for 30, 40, 50 years in the body. And all of a sudden it comes to the surface, and they're bawling and they're crying. And it's like, okay, we need to be able to have the tools necessary to help them through that process. And I know that you have, you worked with emotional counseling too as well, which I think is really important, because you got to give that a way for them to kind of express what they're doing, but it allows you to understand what they're going through, but also through your own process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why, for example, if you were earlier asking about the journey, and really when I look at my journey, it's almost as I was going through my own journey of self-healing, and I'm still in the journey, because we are still in this, really authentically, we are still in the journey, right? I'm always telling my client, there is no boot camp for enlightenment. It is the journey. So Reiki came first. for me. And then I went through my own healing. I did a lot of inner child healing. Then hypnosis came, and I took hypnosis. And then the meditation, the 8-month certification with the Chopra Center. And then the trauma counseling came. It's the beauty of my own journey. It's when you're ready, the doors start opening. Okay, now it's time for you to learn this. And now it's this. So as I've been traveling my own journey, then I've been learning and growing and taking other certification, other tools to help my clients. But it always starts with me first.
Yeah.
My own journey.
Yeah. Because, I think it's really important. I think a lot of practitioners are now realizing that, you got to practice what you preach. You really got to, it's one thing to get your training, but if you fundamentally don't have, not necessarily you have to have every, certificate in the world, but if you're fundamentally not practicing it and not understanding it on your own journey, it's very difficult to integrate that into it. There's no personal experience behind it. And
I'm a true believer of that, Michael. For
yeah.
me, it is not, it's about our own practice. If you look at Reiki, for example, it is 50% our responsibility in how we hold space for the person, how clear as a channel we are. And the other 50%, yes, it is the person, how they receive it, how open they are to receive. But what about ours? So if we don't practice, if we don't continue our journey to be a clear channel, we can say beautiful words, but I do believe, and I'm a firm believer, our energy is what really speak to the person. So if you are not doing your own work, your inner work, that's what you're going to translate to the person. So my work, for me, I'm still every day looking at myself. There is still so much to learn and to grow and evolve. And I'm always learning with anyone that comes, really, Michael, because there is always an exchange. Always.
Yeah. Do you find sometimes a lot of your clients are mirroring a lot of the own issues that you have yourself?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Because we are mirrors of one another.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer that. And so many times when I have a reading client and I'm giving them the information through a psychic reading, and I realize I think a lot of this is pertaining to me. And it's like, okay. I always laugh because my guides are hilarious. Like they'll be like this. And I was like, oh, I need to pay attention to that. And it's like, okay, I guess that was for me too as well. But it's so interesting, so fascinating. I want to talk to you about hypnosis. I absolutely think it's fantastic. I'm a firm believer in hypnosis. I've had a couple of hypnosis sessions done. And I was actually thinking about learning hypnosis myself prior to COVID, stuff like that, because I just find it so fascinating. And how do you integrate? Well, maybe let's just go back a bit. Let's say, maybe the best way to say it is like, how would you describe hypnosis to your clients? Like, because a lot of people are going, I hear about hypnosis, I can't get hypnotized. What is hypnosis in general? Maybe we can talk about that.
So first and foremost, I can tell you, I don't make my clients bark like dogs. None of this. So what is hypnosis? Hypnosis is an altered state of consciousness where the subconscious mind is highly focused and receptive. Now if the person doesn't trust you, yes, they will resist. Or if there is something that they are scared of unveiling during hypnosis, you will find resistance. It's natural because you don't lose consciousness. You are actually highly focused, but always in control.
Okay.
Always in control.
Yeah.
So there is, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's really important. I think that people need to really understand that you're still in
You're
control. Yeah.
always in control. It's not what you see on stage, right? Like I don't make my clients, I don't ask their PIN, their banking PIN, or nothing of the sort, because they are highly focused and they are in control all the time. So, for example, it happened to me a few times where we had to regress in time, because sometimes people are not even consciously aware of where their challenges started. So we regress in time, and there is moments that are difficult. So you see the person right away resisting. That happens. They are in control. So then we try to work. If the resistance is still there, so then I move them back, I bounce them back up. And then consciously, we start talking about what came up. And then when they are ready to do the work, we go back.
Yeah. One of the things I've always been curious about with hypnosis is I know for a lot of people who maybe haven't really started their journey, but they're curious about hypnosis, is sometimes the images and things that come up during it, and somehow their analytical mind gets in the way because they just like, well, why am I seeing this? It doesn't make sense to me. I was never here. I was never there. I never had this experience. But they're trying to rationalize what they're seeing and feeling and the emotions and everything else coming up. Do you find that sometimes you have to kind of coax them, coach them, like coach them through what they're feeling and seeing, because sometimes they just deny what they're seeing?
It never happened to me, I'm
Okay.
going to say. So for me, that is, so regressing in time, for example, that is letting go weight. For example, someone comes and wants to let go weight. You always have to look at the emotional component. Why does the person eat so much? The behavior may be negative, but what the food brings to the person is positive. There
Oh,
is an
interesting.
emotional component. So then it's working into understanding where it started. Sometimes consciously they can't remember that. So then you have to regress in time. And when you find the emotion that is connected to the food, any addiction, there is an emotional component, then the work can start. That is in that or inner child healing. I never experienced myself. So that's my own experience with all my clients. When you are in your subconscious mind, I usually say you are collecting your stars. Even when you regress in time, unless it is past life regression. But if you are in this life in childhood, people were able to connect with these moments. They were not consciously aware. But when they got back to that moment,
Okay.
then all comes up.
Okay. So just a question, speaking about past lives. Um, how difficult it is for your clients to, I mean, I even like to direct a session where you have a client who goes into hypnosis and they basically, they start seeing a scene or something like that. They don't remember, like I kind of mentioned before. And it's somewhere, in the Himalayas or some crazy stuff like that. And they're a farmer or stuff like that. And meanwhile, in this life, and they're not a farmer, they're a stockbroker or they're a nurse or whatever, but they're seeing all these images of a foreign place, and they're describing that to you. Um, how do you kind of, I mean, is it something automatically that the subconscious will take them to a specific time, even though you're not particularly, taking them to a past life regression, but their subconscious wants to go to that particular time and place to heal that wound? Does that
So,
happen?
so I'm going to make you laugh. It never happened to me during hypnosis, but it happened during Reiki, where people experienced past life regression.
Okay, interesting.
That happened. And that's why actually I took hypnosis, because it actually happened a few times during a Reiki session. and they were in another life. So it's absolutely not guided, because it's silence when you are doing Reiki, and people were going to past lives. Again, trauma was coming up.
Interesting.
So really, the experience that I have where people experience past life was with energy work, and not hypnosis. So the way I work, again, this is my own approach. When people come for, there is this mystical thing about the past life regression. My approach and what I recommend to people first is, let's explore this life first. What about that?
Yeah.
Because, and why am I saying that? I experienced past life regression, but years after exploring this life, and I'm telling you what came up from my past life regressions, I had a landing. I had a place to land. If I didn't have it, if I didn't have explored this life first, I think it would have been chaotic, and it would have really put me in a dark place.
Yeah.
So I recommend always, let's look at this one first.
Yeah. I so agree with you on that. I'm a firm believer of working on this lifetime, because you're actually living this lifetime. You're not in the past.
Exactly.
I mean, you're living in your past in this lifetime for the most part, because your past is making your present self, and your present self is making your future self. So why go back other lives that you've already done? It's done, it's over with. And I think it's fascinating. And for a lot of people, it could be very, very beneficial. And it's kind of neat to kind of see what's going on. Like, if for curiosity's sake, I think it's great in some ways, but for an overall healing aspect, you're living this life right now. This is the one you need to work on. This is the stuff that you reincarnated again. You came into this planet again. So you need to be able to heal those wounds at this lifetime. And I so agree with you on that.
Yeah, this is my approach. Again, I'm only sharing the way I work and guide my clients, because again, of my own journey. And I know when I looked at other lives, I was glad that I had explored this one. So the landing was easier.
Yeah, it's so much, because you've already did some work. So if something traumatic in your past lives, I should say, show up, you kind of know how to handle it, because you've kind of dealt with it in this lifetime. So it's like, okay, that makes sense why I'm kind of seeing this pattern again. Now I fully understand why this keeps happening. Why do I have these crazy relationships with these abusive people? Oh, that's where it came from. Okay, yeah, it makes sense that I haven't figured it out. And it's good, because then you can look back, and if you've fully resolved it in this lifetime, it doesn't really bother you that you've done, because that's the work anyways. You've resolved it. You've kind of recycled it. You moved on. You transformed it. You transmuted whatever you want to do. It's done, and you can move on. And I always say, the true way uh, of expressing that is by helping others too, as well, through their stuff.
Yes. But one of the things that you ask, and I'm going to talk about that because I think it was part of your question. So my approach, I really like Milton Erickson approach with hypnosis. So I do use indirect suggestions during a session. And really how it works during hypnosis, I guide them, but the exploration is all done really by the client. Then they take over, because I'm not there. I'm witnessing what's going on with them, but they are in their subconscious mind. And I allow them to collect their stories, their answers. That's really, I use metaphors, storytelling, and this is really like almost guided meditation at times.
Okay. So it really helps them kind of figure out their own answers, so they can kind of go, oh, the light bulb kind of goes off.
Yes, not us telling them. I don't like it's more an indirect suggestions, yes, they are highly focused and they are very receptive. So then the positive suggestions are highly helpful. But when we are exploring whatever it is that we're exploring during hypnosis, they are the ones guiding the session, especially when it's inner child healing.
Yeah, because that inner child, I mean, it's amazing the lack of voice and the lack of understanding about inner child work and what it is, and it's so important because that's I've had another person on the podcast and we talked about inner child work and how it just wants to be heard. It wants to have it wants to be heard. It wants to be loved, and those are some of the things that we're missing. And so often we try to get that healing from other people, and we don't do the healing ourselves.
And I think the key for me of all the years, and I'm going to say the last 3 years, really, it's when I understood I always give the key of my healing to others, the teachers. I always felt, oh, they know better. And I was missing the part of, no, the key is really within us.
Yeah.
We can bring tools, resources, and learn, but really who activates everything is us.
Yeah.
And I think I really stepped into that the last 3 years, fully, completely understanding that it is our continuous journey. I do believe that our story is our biggest spiritual teacher, if we allow ourselves to look at it this way.
So how has that affected your clients now since that profound kind of understanding? How have you integrated that into your own practice?
Well, I think was even coming into my own approach and being okay with, this is my approach with the basis of all. But for example, and why am I saying that? For example, Reiki is taught a minimum of 7 to 8 hours. I can't do it. I can't. It's not enough for me. So the last 3 years, I think it's when I was like, okay, there is a minimum, but it doesn't mean that I only have to give the minimum. I'm going to give what I believe is important for me to give to my students. So level 1 and level 2 is a minimum of 2 days.
Okay.
And just the fact to take that step was like, this is what I believe in. This is my approach, and that's okay.
Yeah. I think it's a fantastic approach. It's something different and unique at the same time too, as well, because, a lot of, I'd say with Reiki in general, but in just a lot of practitioners, it's just like numbers. It's like, just how many students you can get,
Okay.
tune them out the door, stuff like that. And so with the second day, so obviously, I teach Reiki myself and I do a 1 day process. That's how I train and stuff like that. It's for level 1. With the level 2, where do you take it next? So we get the information on the day 1 usually. So on day 2, where does your approach go? Where do you take your approach on day 2 with your students?
Okay, so for me, the practice is very important. There
Okay.
is not enough practice, right? So let's say level, and my classes are, again, this is my approach. Maximum 3 students, max. It's when to. 3 is the maximum that I have. That this is what, again, and for me, it's not about numbers.
Okay.
It's my name that is in their certification, like not the certification, but their diploma saying that they completed the levels. It's my name, so I need to make sure I give them all the foundation. So the level 1, there is so much to teach. There is so much for me how grounding themselves, right, is something that I experienced many students coming with a level 1 and coming for the level 2 to learn with me. Grounding, well, how do well, we just with our hands and we open to the universe. No, but how do you ground yourself? They have no idea what is grounding. Or I hear, well, we don't need to worry about anything as long as we have good intentions. What does that mean? Well, I have good intention. What does that mean? So then for me, it is level 2 is let's look into level 1, especially if the level 1 was not taken with me. And even level 2, if my students took the level 1, now let's ask questions. There is a lot of things when you take the level 2 that they need to be able to explain. What is Reiki? They should be in your level 2, they should be able to explain what is Reiki.
Yeah.
So I review level 1, making sure there is few questions that come their ways, and then we go into the level 2 and practice.
Yeah. Practice, practice, practice. Yeah. And I think that's an excellent approach to it. And I know I find with my own training that I spend more time on the practical end of it, and getting people really to experience it. Because I always said when I had my clinical practice, I said, you know, for people who are new, I said, you give me 3 sessions and I'll make you a believer. Give me 3 sessions, because it's like you said, it takes time for somebody to trust. So when the first session, their brain is going and they're crazy and they're not really thinking straight, they're not relaxed. The second one, they get to know you, they get to know your energy, like you're saying, and then all of a sudden they get to be more relaxed. And by the third one, they're kind of now relaxed, they're open, they expect it, and then that's when the crazy stuff starts happening. And then they kind of go, oh my God, I've seen colors. Oh my God, I've seen this. Oh, this was happening. I was feeling all this energy in my legs, and it was moving up to my head. I don't know, what were you doing? I felt like your hands were on my feet, but your hands were by my head. What's going on? And I always just love those type of comments, because, you know, once they finally get it, and I really commend you on spending that extra time with your students, because I think it might be a new way that we should really approach Reiki training, and really give the full breadth of experience on that. I just really think that's fascinating. So one of the things I want to talk to you about is about your training with the Deepak Chopra. Now, I think a lot of people know who Deepak is. Now, if you don't, I always kind of like Deepak is like the OG of spirituality. There's like he was like the original gangster, you know, he was the one that came up with a few books, but he had the background as being a doctor that kind of bridged the gap between, you know, science and spirituality.
Yeah.
And and he's, you know, just love his quotes and his books, and his talks were always fantastic, and how he approached things. So did you actually go down into, is it California where his center is, or how did you?
So we did it online. It was an online training with live sessions as well. And I remember when I registered, I was like, oh, how it's going to be online. It was the most beautiful 8 months.
Wow.
That I can tell you. The way, so the Chopra Center closed a year ago, but all the teachers. So for example, I'm going to tell you, I had people telling me, what, you're going to take your certification with the Chopra Center? Why the Chopra Center? Why you, it's so expensive and it's so this and that. There is something about Deepak, and it's not because I have a certification, because yes, he taught us, but we were taught with many other teachers. There is something that he created with Dr. David Simon. They were the co-founders of the Chopra Center. That is, you can't deny it. I was there, like we were together for 8 months, 135 people all over the world graduated with me. The way we were taught. So I am a primordial sound meditation instructor. So with a mantra, I receive my personal mantra. And the mantra has absolutely no meaning. It has a vibration. the vibration that the universe was making when I was born. So if you learn meditation with me, it's exactly the same. Your personal mantra will be calculated by the day of your birth, where you were born, and it's not me who does the calculation, the Chopra Center does.
Oh, so interesting. So it's kind of like a birth chart for your mantra.
Yes. And
Wow.
it has a vibration, the vibration that the universe was making when you were born. So it's very personalized.
Wow, that's very cool.
It's a beautiful. So that is the beautiful gift of this certification with my own practice in meditating every day was finding myself, Michael.
Wow.
That's the most beautiful gift.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, yeah, I just find it so fascinating. So with I know from my understanding from years ago, and they probably have changed it a lot, that I know he was very big in transcendental meditation. Did you guys practice a lot of that? Was that a lot of the foundation to the meditation?
It is. So our meditation is a silent meditation with your mantra, right?
Okay.
So you are silently repeating. Now I'm at that stage, it's no longer repeating the mantra. I can hear the mantra, right? As you practice, and you practice an hour a day. So 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at the end of the day. But it was really going into the Vedic tradition, understanding what is the mantra, but also the connection with our soul. There is so much into this certification. The 7 higher states of consciousness. That is the end of the course. But what I wanted to say is, even though it was online, we had many live discussions, and we had to do our training live with our teachers. So our exams, our presentations, everything was live. It couldn't have been better, Michael.
Yeah.
From all the teachers, we were supported. Any question, the material that came to us, it's a lifetime material access. You have access to all the literature, everything. And for me, going into the Chopra Center certification was also, it is a spiritual journey, but I needed to be able to explain meditation to any kind of anyone. So you have people that come to learn meditation because they are spiritually oriented, but there is people that just want to help themselves physically and for their health. And with the Chopra Center, we have both the medicine, all the studies, the brain, the connection with the what meditation does in the body, in the brain. And for me was to be able to explain and share meditation to all people, not just, just the group that is spiritually oriented. Yeah. This is what I want to this is why, I've been taking all the certification, but it's not about the certification, it's about knowledge. So I'm able to touch anyone, not just a group of people. Yeah. Because we need to help one another, not just a group of people.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the premise of this podcast, is to exactly do that. Because, as much as a lot of people, when they think about the name, the metaphysical mentor, they kind of think, oh, it's all about spiritual. But the idea with the metaphysical is it's basically about knowledge. What is metaphysical? It's beyond knowledge. And it's basically beyond. And the mentorship is basically about teaching about all the different practices and things out there that are available to everybody. And so it's my guests who are the mentors. It's not really me, guys, even though I like to think I am. It's my guests that they're mentoring. It's about them bringing out the information. And because I wanted to make sure that I cover a lot of topics that will appeal to a lot of people, to make it entertaining, but at the same time too that they can learn about all these great practitioners, all these different things, and to help them on their journey, because that's basically the premise. It's about helping you on your soul's journey, and it's everybody. I try to get different topics, different things that would appeal to
Mhm.
everybody, and to have that. And yeah, I think it's a really, really important, because we want to get the vast majority of people who are, again, like you say, move outside what we call the spiritual people and move it into a more mainstream. So it's like every day. So meditation, it's like, talking about your coffee. Oh, did you have your meditation today? Oh, it's like having your cup of coffee. Instead of going, hey, I went to the coffee shop, I was like, oh, I just did my meditation. And to people actually just to do meditation as a way of finding themselves, or instead of a way of just trying to feel spiritual. A lot of people, they just do meditation or they do their yoga just to to make themselves feel spiritual. Meanwhile, they're not really doing the work. I mean, it's something that they can say, but it's like you really kind of have to really do it.
And the thing is, for example, even when there is, and it makes me smile when people say, and normally I answer that always, I'm a spiritual person. Well, we all are. We all are. We're all spiritual beings, right?
Yep.
The difference is maybe there is some people more aware or conscious, but there is for me, it is very being aware of even the way we express ourselves, to not promote division. Because when we say, oh, I am very spiritual versus, oh, you're not so spiritual. Well, we're all spiritual beings. So that's number one. We all are, right?
Yeah.
And for me, the way I look at things, it's never about me. It's never about my experience or my healing. When you have clients that come to you, it's about them. So how can you help them? What are the tools? And also being humble. For me, it's very important that it's, and I believe sometimes in periods of our healing journey, it's more than one person that you need. You need a team,
Yes. So true.
and being humble to say, you know what, there is this person and there is this person, and what about that? And for me, it's never about me, it's about them. What can help them? So if it means to send them to someone else, I will do it.
Perfect. I love hearing that. And that's what it's all about. It's
Yeah.
building your own team too as well, because I have a list of practitioners, because a lot of times during my readings, when I give a reading out to somebody, a lot of information will be either health or mental or emotional healing that needs to be done. So now I have such a list of practitioners, and depending where they are, it's like, okay, you need to go see this person, this will help, this will help. And then now they know, they have insight to what's going on. So now they can say, well, this is what's going on. And then they have some insight to their own healing, and it really empowers them to really help them make those choices. And I think that's really important, is to really help empower people on their journey. And I
Yes.
think that's fascinating and fantastic at the same time too. So that being said, Emily, we're almost out of time.
I know, time flew.
Time did fly. Yeah, that's what I mean. One of these days, hopefully I get to have a show like Joe Rogan where we can talk for hours and hours and these long
Well,
formats.
I will talk for hours. Like, yeah, I think it's a
I
given.
yeah,
You
I can
understood.
I can too as well. Yeah, not a problem there. But that being said, so where can people find you if people are looking for your service? They want Reiki training, they want some meditation training, they want some hypnosis work. Where can they find you?
Okay, so they can find me on my website. So www.emilie, Emilie, Macas, Macas.ca. And I have my Instagram page at Emilie Macas, and I'm always available to answer even questions.
Perfect.
That's
So
that's one thing that I do, and I'm hoping not to change that. Sometimes there is people that will email and they have few questions, and it doesn't mean that they're going to come and see you. but they need these questions answered, I will
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah. I'm a little bit the same way. I'm the same way. So I'll have all that information
Yes.
in the description below. So if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or you're watching this lovely video on YouTube, I'll have all the information, Emily's information in the description. So just kind of scroll down and you'll see all the information, and you can contact her and have an amazing healing session and help you on your journey. And that being said, Emily, I'm just going to close off the podcast here. So this has been the Metaphysical Mentor podcast with Michael Philpott. Thank you so much for joining me, and goodbye for now.